Here comes a video for things. Pow! Hi, these are your Jesse Mack one word or less, but not one word or less comic reviews for my favorite 10 comics single issues of 2017. Which my belly's showing. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but it's not great. Anyway, if you could, I apologize. If you couldn't, why am I still talking? Let's talk about comics because they're great. Before I get started entirely, there is a lot of Batman on here. Tom King blew me away with Batman in this past 12 months. Uh, he is so far inside this character's head and revealing things about why why Bruce Wayne does the things that he does, that I am appreciating the character on levels that I've never done before. And I've liked Batman quite a bit in the past, so this is wonderful stuff. Uh, okay, issue 15, which is my number 10, is one part of a like sort of two part, what felt like a throwaway arc, where Batman had just sprung Catwoman from prison essentially, and for like a secret mission, and he has to take her back, uh, because she's killed a ton of people, and that's not okay. And Batman knows this, but she convinces him to spend one more night with her, and of course runs away, and it's a whole thing. But uh, I found over these last 2 years, part of what I love about Tom King's Batman writing, other than the fact that like psychologically it's beautiful, is that he kind of like writes in rhymes and rhythms, where like little moments will pop back up and repeat, and that speaks to me. It's a very like crafty way of doing things, and that appeals to me to no end. And sometimes it gets to my heartstrings. This one, not so much heartstrings, but it was just beautifully done. My number 9, shockingly, is more Batman. This is the end of an epic story called The War of Jokes and Riddles, which a lot of why it's on here is because it's a culmination of the brilliance that came before it, uh, but also just such beautiful little moments within. And spoilers, Batman has decided to propose to Selina Kyle, to Catwoman, and she says yes, which is very nice. It's gonna be a wonderful ceremony. Uh, but this provides a nice extra romantic stamp at the end of that as well. But mostly it's just because this is the best Joker possibly of all time. Like Heath Ledger was real good. There are a couple other Jokers that are just top of their game, but Joker who no longer finds anything funny is a flippin' aces Joker. I loved this so much, and I feel like the last issue of the arc shined even brighter than the rest of it. Oh hey, it's more Tom King. Mr. Miracle number 4 is just a beautiful use of 9-panel grid and repetition, and like there is so much tension in these pages with this back and forth, and that's not even the tensest part. There's parts later on. It is a grilling. It is a trial with Mr. Miracle's life on the line, where he's talking to his brother who has become the High Father. Oh, High Father, All Father, no, High Father, right? I don't know a lot about the old gods, but has become the leader, and it gets real crazy, and yet it's also punctuated by quick moments of comedy that deflate that balloon of tension, only to just like get it right up to the breaking point again. And it took my breath away in a way that almost no other comics did for this entire year. This series has been brilliant. Please check it out if you haven't. All right, my number 7 comic, yes, is a title that I don't. It's Batman. I was trying to make a joke about it, but no, it's just more Batman. Of course, it's more Batman. This is the one where he actually proposes to her, and it's a. When I looked through this again to try to figure out what I wanted to say about it, and the title is "Every Epilogue is a Prelude," and that's kind of wonderful in itself because now looking back, this is the wrapping up of all the stories before it, while also being the sort of first penny thrown into the wishing well of the next stories that follow it. So it is exactly that. It is the epilogue and the prelude. But it digs very deeply into into who Batman is and why he is. The idea that he doesn't allow himself to be happy because he's scared. He's scared that if he's happy, he'll stop, and if he stops, he he won't be Batman. And if he's not Batman, then who is he? Can he not be Batman? Is a lot of the underlying feel of this series, and yeah, it's just wonderful. It is a really interesting. It is a vulnerable Batman who is not just all growly. I am the terror that flaps in the night, and that was Darkwing Duck. That's not even Batman, but it's good. Sometimes I gotta just stop talking. Gotta remember that. Stray Bullets number 21 is my number. What would it be? 6, I think. Stray Bullets also had a pretty fantastic year. It is a good roller coaster comic where not every issue is a blowaway, but they build toward the blowaways. And this was a very, very good comic for things coming together in a way that, in unexpected ways. And I feel like it is just wonderfully done. A lot of really good humor, but then like really intense moments mixed in, which, as you can tell, I'm a flippin' sucker for. Second time saying flippin' there. All right, I have got a hair in my face, and it is bugging me so much. Ay, ay, ay. Batman Annual number 2 is my number 5. It's right in my eye. It is right in my eye. Did I get it? No, I didn't get it. This is going to bother me whole rest of the video. Tom King is wonderful at this. I'm going to say it like 3 or 4 more times, so get strapped in. I just talked about this like a month ago because it just came out, but I didn't think this was going to be a thing. I thought, like, okay, this is going to be kind of a silly throwaway story because it's an annual. Not everybody's going to pick it up. The human equivalent of Elmer Fudd is on one of the first few pages. It's like, okay, this is going to be cute. And then they do a time jump near the end to Batman and Catwoman being old and everything being wonderful. And then it's sad because one of them is dying. And it just, I think the sharp turn and them saying the little cutesy things to each other, just like, I read this at work and it made me cry at work, and I hate when that happens. But I also love when that happens. It's why I read. Sometimes comics can, I mean, I cry at everything. I am a big old emotional wuss bag for media, especially for just like a well-told, well-done story. But comics hit me in a way that just, it's wonderful. I love the comics. Deadly Class, what issue are you on here? 26. A few issues before this, I'm crying a little bit thinking about the story, and also because there's a hair in my eye. A few issues before this, I'm going to spoil this for you, because if you're not reading it, you're probably not going to read it, and it's not going to ruin anything. Most of the cast dies in the storyline before this, and this issue sort of just was like, wait, what is this? It's one of those stories where you don't know what's happening until you get close to the end, and then it's like, oh, that's the story I was reading this whole time. That's wonderful. Yeah, as it turns out, some of these people aren't as dead as they would have seemed. So it went from being a story where anything can happen, and sometimes you just gotta, seriously, this hair is bothering me. Oh, I got it. Yay, I can do the video now. It went from a story where anything can happen and you just have to readjust, and it's like, okay, well, now there's a different Deadly Class. Let's go. To being a story where it's like, okay, now we got all these new people, and we've got some of the old people. What's going to happen when they collide? And they started colliding, and it's pretty great. Should probably expect to see more of this in the future. All right, my number 3 book, the last Batman on this list, is Batman number 20. This is the end of a storyline where Bane comes to Gotham, and he's all, I'm Bane, blah, blah, and Batman has to fight him back, and on paper, not the best story. It just, like, and honestly, in execution, a lot of it was some of the lower points of Tom King's Batman, because it just kind of sat there. It didn't delve a whole lot. This issue, though, specifically, speaking of issues where you don't know what you're reading till you get to the end, it's a conversation that Batman is having in his head as he is, like, visually just fighting Bane and getting the garbage snot kicked out of him. He is having a conversation with a woman, and it's his mother. It's his dead mother, and he, in his insane brain, is either talking to his dead mother or he is so close to death that he has passed through and has to make the conscious decision not to choose this death. And some of those moments are just so pointed and so touching that it just got me. It got me deep. And but it's also a big smash story where he is as Batman as he can be. It ticks all the boxes, and it is just great stuff. My number two book of the year was Saga number 42, which, same thing. If you can make me cry, I'm going to love you forever. Uh, this is a story about small loss and large loss, uh, and that it starts off in a panic, and by the end of it, the panic has, it was justified. And super bad things happen to our main characters, and super bad things happen outside of our main characters. And I think the main thing, it's cheap. It's a cheap gimmick, but the main thing that got me was as the this asteroid, essentially a planet, is dying, it just fades to black, and there are several pages of black and nothing, and you're left with that feeling for 3 or 4 or 5 page flips, just and yeah, good job, because it worked. Again, cheap move, just beautiful, man. Easily nope, no words aren't working. Easily emotionally manipulated. Okay, I can understand why I couldn't get that out. That's a lot of words. My favorite comic of the year was Stray Bullets, Sunshine and Roses, number 28. This one did not make me cry. This one made me scared, because I don't think I've ever seen in comics a better representation of utter insanity. Just the panel to panel transitions. I can't pretend to be an expert on things like that, but just moments where things are going normally, and then there's one moment of absolute madness, and it's either from another point in the story where the guy's mind has just jumped out of his head, or just him inside of his head just screaming that they apologize, but he doesn't actually do that because he's holding it together. But he's not holding it together, and it's not a banana. And oh my god, it made me feel sick to my stomach in a way that just, how do you do that? How do you make somebody physically ill? There's nothing graphic in this comic. It just suggests the worst things you can imagine, and took me on that ride, and I gladly would go on it again. Just not all the time, because I don't think I could do this every week. Real good comic, though. This was a fine year for comic. I am running out of ways to show that I'm dressy. I think suspenders is my last hurrah. I have nothing. I've worn a hat and a tie and a suit jacket, and I don't know what else I can do. But this year, hey, I'm fancy. I hope that you continue to follow along on this journey. It's another good opportunity to say that everybody who has watched and continues to watch, I love that you're watching. It's not always the most fun thing. It's harder than you'd think to encapsulate comics into one word, but I'm too rambly to do a regular comic review, and I don't even really review. I just say how I feel, which I guess kind of works, but I've never felt like I've had a great critical eye, but I know what I like, and I love sharing it. So thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in the new year, and take care of yourselves. Maybe take care of each other. Maybe the whole world doesn't have to explode this year. Fingers crossed.